We've all been there, holding onto the idea of someone, replaying every message, every look, every almost. But the hardest kind of love to let go of is the one that never truly began. The one that lived in hopes, daydreams, and what ifs. The love that felt real to you, but wasn't mutual. So how do you move on from something that was never fully yours? Just because someone made you feel something deep and intense doesn't automatically mean they were ever going to build something lasting with you. We often confuse strong feelings with strong foundations, but the two are very different. Some people walk into our lives and spark something inside us. They make us feel seen, desired, or even hopeful. But those moments, as powerful as they are, may not carry the intention of something real. A brief connection, no matter how exciting or emotionally stirring, isn't a commitment to stay, grow, or invest. It's important not to get swept up in the rush of chemistry and forget to look for the consistency of effort. Sometimes we hold on to potential rather than reality. We imagine what could be, replay conversations in our minds, and dream of what the relationship might look like if it ever became something more. But if their actions have never matched your hopes, then you may be in love with the version of them you created. The apology has been, not the person they've actually shown themselves to be. That emotional investment becomes exhausting when it isn't matched. You deserve someone who doesn't leave you guessing. And if someone never chooses you fully, then clinging to that, almost, will only keep you stuck in emotional limbo. We tell ourselves that maybe, just maybe, if we try harder, wait longer, or prove ourselves, they'll finally see our worth. But love doesn't work that way. The right person won't need convincing. You don't have to audition for someone who truly sees your value. Rejection, as painful as it is not a verdict on your worth. It's a redirection. It closes a door that was never meant to open fully. And in that closed door, you gain something even more powerful than love. You gain clarity. The clarity to walk away and stop negotiating with confusion. The truth is, your love is too valuable to spend on someone who doesn't reciprocate it. The right relationship doesn't leave you drained, waiting, or doubting yourself. It fills you up. So instead of mourning what never was, focus on what could still be. With someone else, yes, but most importantly, with yourself. You walk away not because you didn't care, but because you care enough now to choose peace over chaos, reality over illusion, and self-respect over unreturned affection. Sometimes, what we cling to the most isn't the person themselves, but the idea of who they were in our imagination. We create a version of them that fits our hopes, our longings, and our desire to feel chosen. This imagined version is shaped by fragments. Small gestures, fleeting words, a few moments of connection that we inflate into something bigger than they actually were. In our minds, we build a relationship that feels real because the emotions are real, even if the other person never truly showed up in the way we needed them to. When someone doesn't offer consistent attention, effort, or care, that's a sign, not of your inadequacy, but of the reality of what's missing. Love needs presence. It needs more than potential or fantasy. If their actions left you constantly waiting, wondering, or questioning, then what you were attached to may not have been the real them, but a hopeful version that you painted in your heart. This is what makes letting go so difficult. Not just losing a person, apology has been, but also the imagined future and emotional world you had created around them. It's painful to admit that something wasn't as mutual or meaningful as you believed it to be. That pain comes from realizing you were emotionally alone in something that felt shared. But in that realization is a chance to set yourself free free from overthinking what you could have done differently, free from chasing validation, and free from the emotional loops that keep you stuck in a love that was never returned with equal depth. That clarity might sting, but it's the kind of truth that leads to healing. You owe it to yourself to live in reality, not in daydreams built around someone who never truly invested in you. You deserve a connection where you don't have to guess how someone feels. So, as you move forward, let go of the illusion gently but firmly. Mourn what felt real to you, but remind yourself that your capacity to love is something beautiful. And it will be received fully when it's given to someone who sees you clearly and chooses you without hesitation. Rejection can feel like a personal failure, like something about you wasn't enough to be chosen. But that belief isn't the truth. It's just the sting of disappointment talking. The reality is that someone's inability to choose you often has far more to do with their own limitations, circumstances, or emotional readiness than it does with your worth. People come with their own baggage, fears, and unresolved feelings that shape how they connect with others. When someone pulls away or doesn't reciprocate, it doesn't automatically mean you're lacking. It might just mean they're not capable of giving what you deserve. It's easy to internalize rejection and think, if I had been better, different, maybe they would have stayed. But those thoughts only plant doubt where confidence should grow. You are not defined by someone else's inability to love you the way you needed. Their decision to walk away or remain distant is a reflection of their own priorities or emotional barriers, not a measurement of your value. You brought honesty, care, and intention, and those are strengths, not reasons to shrink. In many cases, rejection is simply redirection. It's life gently removing something that wasn't meant to grow, no matter how much you hoped it would. That space you feel now. The H, the confusion. It can become the very place where something better begins to unfold. A door closing doesn't mean love is no longer possible. It means this particular story wasn't yours to continue. And in that truth lies a powerful freedom, even if it doesn't feel like it right away. Letting go of what didn't choose you creates room for what will. The goal isn't to prove yourself to someone who didn't see your light. It's to keep shining until someone does. Rejection hurts, yes, but it also protects. It keeps you from giving more time to the wrong chapter and opens you to the possibility of one that's truly aligned. Your value remains untouched by someone else's inability to appreciate it. When someone shows you through their actions that they are not choosing you, believe them the first time. It's natural to want to hold on to their words. Maybe they said they cared. Maybe they hinted at a future. But words without consistent action are just noise. Often, people are not cruel on purpose, but they leave just enough hope to keep you around without ever fully committing. You start to analyze every message, every moment, trying to make sense of something that was already clear from the start. Clarity isn't always comfortable, but it is powerful. When someone doesn't show up for you, doesn't prioritize you, or doesn't actively try to be part of your life, that's your answer. It might not come in the form of a formal goodbye or a detailed explanation. It might come through silence, distance, or inconsistency. And yet, many people will keep negotiating with that silence, rewriting the story in their head just to keep the fantasy alive. But rewriting the story won't change how it ends, has been. The more you chase meaning in their mixed signals, the more you delay your own healing, has been. It's painful to accept that someone isn't who you hoped they'd be, but in continuing to seek hidden meanings and deeper reasons behind their disinterest, you only rob yourself of peace. Let the absence of effort be the closure. Let their lack of presence be the final word. The apology has been, you don't need to keep reaching for something that's already slipping away by choice. Walking away from someone who didn't choose you is not an act of bitterness. It's an act of self-respect. It's choosing to stop dancing with confusion and start standing in your truth. You deserve someone whose words align with their actions, whose intentions are clear, and whose love is evident without you having to ask for it. Stop negotiating with clarity. Let it free you. Silence has a way of speaking volumes when someone doesn't have the courage or the care to offer you clarity. It leaves questions echoing in your mind. Why they drifted away, why they stopped showing up, why they couldn't say goodbye. You wait for a message that never comes, hoping for closure that feels earned. But the longer you wait for their explanation, the longer you stay stuck in the age of confusion. Silence, as cold as it feels, is often the clearest answer you'll ever receive. We convince ourselves that if they could just explain, it would help us move on. That maybe knowing their reasons will give us peace. But that need for explanation becomes a trap, keeping us emotionally tethered to someone who already let go. The truth is, people disappear for all kinds of reasons: fear, guilt, disinterest, emotional immaturity. And most of those reasons have little to do with your worth. Waiting for them to articulate what they didn't have the decency to communicate is rarely worth your time. It's hard to accept silence as closure because it feels so incomplete. But sometimes the silence itself is the completion. It says, they're not willing to give you what you need. It reveals a lack of emotional responsibility, and it protects you from pouring any more energy into someone who couldn't even offer you the respect of a goodbye, that quiet space they left behind. Fill it with your own voice, your own healing, and your own understanding. Apology has been, closure always come in the form of final words or clean endings. Sometimes closure is simply accepting that no more words are coming. It's choosing to end the story yourself instead of waiting for someone else to write the last page. You don't need their permission to heal. You don't need their apology to move forward. Their silence may feel empty, but in truth, it's full of answers. And one of those answers is that you deserve better. Unreciprocated love has a way of exhausting the heart. You give your time, your thoughts, your care, hoping that maybe, just maybe, the other person will notice your effort and finally meet where you are. But love isn't meant to be an emotional performance where you try to prove your worth in hopes of earning someone's affection. When the feelings aren't mutual, every message you send and every gesture you make starts to feel heavier, has been, like you're carrying the weight of the relationship alone. It might feel romantic to hold on, to believe that loyalty and persistence will win them over in the end. But loyalty to someone who doesn't show up for you is not a strength. It's a slow form of self-abandonment. You end up making excuses for their lack of effort, justifying their absence, and convincing yourself that what you feel is enough to sustain something real. But one-sided love, no matter how deep or genuine, cannot fill the empty space left by someone who never intended to stay. Your love deserves to be mirrored. It deserves to be felt, appreciated, and returned with the same sincerity. If someone wouldn't cross the street for you, then it makes no sense for you to cross oceans for them. Relationships are not meant to be built on chasing or convincing. They're meant to grow through shared desire and mutual care. When it's not mutual, you will always feel unsure, always question your value, and always give more than you get. Choosing to stop pouring love into a one-side connection isn't cold. It's self-care. You're not giving up on love, has been. You're giving up being drained by someone who never saw your full worth. Real love doesn't need convincing. It doesn't make you feel small, invisible, or desperate. It meets you in the middle without you having to beg for it. And until that kind of love arrives, protect your heart by not offering it to someone who never truly held it. There is a deep kind of sadness that comes not from what was lost, but from what never had the chance to become. When you care deeply for someone who never fully chose you, apology has been, you're not just letting go of them, you're letting go of everything you imagine with them. The moments you thought you'd share, the conversations that never happened, the version of the future that lived only in your mind. It's okay to grieve that. It's okay to feel the sting of those lost possibilities and sit with the emptiness they leave behind. You may find yourself revisiting old memories, analyzing moments, wondering if you missed a sign or if you could have done something different. This is all part of the process. Emotions don't follow logic. Even if the connection was one-sided, your feelings were still real. And real feelings deserve to be felt, not buried. Let yourself cry over the missed calls, the unanswered messages, the unspoken words that stayed trapped in your throat. You don't have to pretend it didn't hurt just because it wasn't mutual. But while grief is necessary, you must not make a home in it. Pain is meant to pass through you, not define you. When you hold on to the sadness for too long, it starts to shape how you see yourself. You may begin to believe that you're always the one who gets left behind, or that you're not meant to be loved in return. That is the most dangerous part. Not the heartbreak, but what it tries to convince you to believe about your worth. Don't let a temporary hurt become a permanent story. Eventually, you have to close the chapter, not because it didn't mean anything, but because your life has so much more ahead. What you feel today will soften with time. One day, you'll look back with a sense of peace instead of pain. But that peace begins the moment you choose to stop carrying the weight of what never became and start making space for something that actually can. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's honoring what you felt and then choosing to move forward anyway. Pain has a way of making us feel like we're stuck, like we've reached a dead end with no way forward. It wraps itself around your thoughts, your routine, even your sense of self, until you begin to believe that what hurt you is now part of who you are. But pain doesn't have to be a prison. It can be a pivot point. It can be the moment you stop shrinking yourself for people who don't see your worth and start building a life where you are fully seen, heard, and valued. It doesn't mean the pain disappears, but it means you choose not to stay trapped in it. Heartbreak is not just about what was lost. It's also about what it reveals. It shines a light on your boundaries, your standards, and your patterns. Instead of letting it harden you, let it teach you. Learn where you overextended, where you ignored red flags, and where you gave more than you received. Use that awareness not to blame yourself, but to protect yourself better in the future. Let it refine the kind of love you're willing to accept and remind you that your heart is too valuable to be given away carelessly. This pain can become the moment everything changes. You can take the pieces of what broke you and turn them into something stronger, a higher level of self-respect, a clearer understanding of what you deserve, and a stronger connection to your own voice. There's something powerful about walking away from something that hurt you, not with bitterness, but with grace, not with resentment, but with wisdom. That's when healing turns into growth. Your story doesn't end here. This is not the final chapter. It's the part where the lesson sinks in and you rise a little higher. The person who will choose you boldly and see you clearly is not someone you'll have to chase or convince. They will meet you with the same energy you bring. But you'll only be ready for that when you stop holding on to what wasn't yours and start using the pain to build the kind of life and love you truly deserve. All the love time and energy you gave to someone who couldn't return it doesn't have to go to waste. That same care and attention you so freely offered can be redirected toward yourself. You've already proven how deeply you can love and how much you're willing to give. Now imagine how your life could transform if you turned even half of that love inward. Begin to invest in your own growth, your passions, and your happiness the way you once did for someone else. This isn't selfish, it's survival. It's the beginning of choosing yourself after waiting too long to be chosen by someone else. Use this moment as a turning point. Start focusing on the things and people that bring you peace and clarity instead of confusion and pain. Reconnect with your hobbies, explore interests you left behind, and rebuild parts of yourself that got quiet while you were trying to be enough for someone else. It's okay to shift your focus from being there for others to being there for yourself. The relationships that truly matter, friends, family, even the one you have with yourself, will begin to flourish when you start watering them with intention. The healing doesn't always come from someone new entering your life. Often, it comes from realizing you are enough on your own, has been. The love you were waiting to receive might be the same love you've been needing to give to yourself all along. So pour it into your growth, your goals, your peace. In doing so, you remind yourself that your worth was never dependent on being loved by someone else. It was always there, waiting for you to see it. The right kind of love doesn't make you feel like you have to fight for attention, prove your worth, or constantly question where you stand. It won't keep you in a cycle of waiting for a message, hoping for a change, or trying to read between the lines. Love that is real is not built on uncertainty. It shows up clearly with intention. It chooses you without hesitation, not because you begged for it or molded yourself to fit someone else's needs, but because you were seen, valued, and accepted exactly as you are. When someone is meant for you, their presence brings peace, not anxiety. You won't have to second guess their feelings, chase their time, or settle for crumbs of affection. There will be mutual effort, open communication, and shared emotional investment. This kind of love doesn't make you feel small or invisible. It makes you feel grounded and safe. It doesn't come with games or confusion. It comes with clarity. And when you experience it, you'll realize just how draining and unfair it was to keep hoping someone who couldn't meet you halfway would eventually change. Settling for almost love keep tied to what's familiar but unfulfilling. It delays the arrival of something because your heart is still caught in a place that was never meant to be your home. You deserve more than the illusion of connection. Let go of the idea that you need to convince someone to stay. You never have to beg for real love. The right person will come with calm, not chaos, with presence, not promises. And they will not need convincing, because they'll already know your worth.